Hello. There's some thoughts that I've been thinking about and developing based on different teachings of my Rabbi Yitzchak Ginsburg. These are just creatively inspired thoughts that I've been putting together, and they have to do with how we view the universe and how our mindset of how we're viewing the observable universe around us, how that is affected by our mindset. So there's these two mindsets, as we have this psychologist Carol Dweck explains. There's the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. And as we explained in another class, so even someone who is staying the same in this generation, especially when everything is just to stay the same is a big triumph. So that's like going up on a down escalator. That every so often a person has to step up in order to stay at the same level because the escalator is going down, and it requires effort. Right? So you have these, either you're going up or you're going down. How do you see that in cosmic terms? Either the universe is inflating or it's deflating, it's contracting. So cosmologically, you have the Doppler effect and then the Hubble's law, where you have what's called a redshift, where something appears like it's going farther away. So conversely, a blue shift is like a star, something observable, that it appears that it's coming closer. So there's starting to introduce a lot of parallels between inflation and contraction, between being growing and the opposite, and between blue and red. And so you have this horizon paradox. What does it say? So it says that you have cosmic radiation at one side of the observable universe and the other side of the observable universe, and the temperature, so to speak, the level of radiation is the exact same. So the only way that this could be for these two particles at these two opposite ends is that since the time 13.8 billion years is not enough time for these two to have been together, right? Because we want to say that since they share the same cosmic level of cosmic radiation, the same soup, so to speak, they were together at some point. So the most comfortable explanation that physicists like to say is, that proves that there's inflation, that the universe is inflating, and the reason that they're so far apart is because the universe is inflating. It's not necessarily. There's another theory is variable speed of light, which we'll not go into, but again, it's interesting. So imagine these two particles, these two opposite ends of the observable universe, to the right and to the left, and they have the cosmic background for both of them is the same, and they're both red shifting, right? Because the universe is inflating, so they both appear to be red. So just have this thought experiment that if my mindset is to project, to have them seem as to be red, then they're red. Maybe they're blue, or maybe one is red, one is blue. Imagine a clear mirror, right? So you have something that seems like it's going farther away from you, but really it's coming close. It's the opposite. We're coming up to Purim soon. So the central topic of Purim is called, what's it called in the Gemara, Ipcha Mistabra. It's Aramaic. And it means the opposite is the case. The opposite is there was the decree against the Jewish people, and then at the end there was Layehudim Ha'Yisa'or V'Simcha. There was light and rejoicing for the Jewish people. So what are we looking at? So it's explained in Kabbalah the difference between blue and red. There are many differences, but one is the difference between light and fire. It's also a difference between wisdom and understanding. But for now, we'll focus on light and fire. And what do physicists say? That there's only a certain amount that they can look past theoretically, because at maybe 370,000 years or so from the time of creation, it's too fiery, it's too hot for it to observe. But that's looking at it from a red, looking as if like a red shift. But from a blue shift is to shift our mentality to look at things like light. So maybe we can see back to the first moment of creation in our mind's eye. We have if you look at the observer effect, which is a photon or a concentrated source of light, the act of observing, meaning from this photon or concentrated laser beam or something like that. So it affects what it's observing, and this is pretty clear because you're shooting these photons on the object in order to ascertain its position and velocity. So one would think that, of course, indeed, that it affects the position and the velocity of the object to some extent. So you have the observer effect, which talks specifically about light. And yet, the physicists don't like the fact that people took the word observer and assumed that means a conscious observer. A laser beam is presumably not a conscious observer, right? So they say you're using the word and you're trying to apply some type of metaphysics to this. We're not. It doesn't assume a conscious observer. So there's stories of tzaddikim, like the seer of Lublin, who could see from one end of the world to the other. And I don't think it just, maybe it doesn't just mean like Perth, Australia, or somewhere in the far outskirts of the world, but to see from one end to the other is presumably can also mean the created universe, and maybe that's indeed what he was able to see. I'm not sure, but to see, meaning to sit here and to see, you can see to the vast expanses, but also maybe even to see into the future, and that's called prophecy, right? Tzaddik, a holy, righteous individual, can also see into the future. It says that tzaddik, a wise person, knows what will be born, knows what will come about from their actions to today in the present. So back to blue and red. So what we're interested in is seeing if there's a source in the Torah, if there's some event in the Torah where you have this shift from red to blue, right? We said that scientists, physicists like to think in terms of a red shift. And now we're suggesting that there's some type of a blue shift, which also, again, we said is a shift from fire to seeing things as fiery, which also means the search for life, because red also is cognate with life and living just blood, right? So it's life forms, the search for life forms. So a physicist that's seeing things in terms of red is also searching for life. It also has that mindset of searching for life. And it's also like giving birth to looking for new species, new civilizations. So all of that goes hand in hand. But now we're saying to shift from red to blue. So I thought of a good, seemingly good. This is my own thought. A seemingly good episode in the Torah they're good in terms of relating to this topic. So when Jacob thought he was marrying Rachel is, it says, Tovas Marez, a beautiful appearance, and anytime it talks about the redness of the cheeks and the beautiful appearance, so that's Rachel is explaining Kabbalah relates to red, whereas Leah, why blue? First of all, Leah was on the level of the intellect, whereas Rachel related to the level of the emotions, but also because she was crying, she had blue eyes. Why was she crying all the time? Every day, maybe even, is because here Jacob came and she thought that here Jacob is going to marry. Jacob is the younger brother, and that he's going to marry Rachel, her younger sister, and that Leah is the older sister, and that God forbid that she should marry Jacob's older brother Esav, right? Because Leah was a holy woman, and Esav was not a holy man. So she cried about that, and so there's other explanations for why Leah relates to blue, but it's speaking in terms of the eyes, the light coming from the eyes, whereas Rachel is the cheeks, the redness of the cheeks and the complexion. So when Jacob thought that he was marrying Rachel, so in the marriage chamber at night, it was completely dark out of modesty, and Jacob had given signs to Rachel that he should know that it was her, because it was completely dark, and that was the way that he would know that it was her, by these signs. But Rachel didn't want her sister to be embarrassed, because Lavan, their father, had made this switch between Rachel and Leah in the marriage chamber, and so Rachel didn't want her sister to be embarrassed, so Rachel gave over the signs that Jacob had gave. So Rachel gave them over to her sister, and so the marriage was consummated. And so in the morning, Jacob realized that this was Leah. So this is the switch, right? So what you think is red switched in darkness to blue. So there's some theories that in the midst of a black hole, that time and space switch. Also, it's the Purim experience where you have Adalo Yada, the highest level of the superconscious of it's really the level of faith, of simple faith. It's called Resha Delo Yada, the unknowable head. I don't know the difference between blessed be Mordechai, the hero of the Purim story, and cursed be Haman, the villain of the Purim story. So not to know the difference between the two, it means you have two opposite states, and there's to juggle this paradox in both hands, to have this paradox, and that at the level of not knowing is not yet to know the answer, not to know which is which. So this is exactly the experience of Jacob, that he didn't know which was which. So they're just in terms of, so we have to think of, what are we looking for? Are we looking for something in space, or are we looking for something in time? It says that the name of Hashem that relates to time is the four-letter name of God, Shem Havaya, Yud, Hey, and Vav and Hey. And It's within the name you have Haya, Hoveh, V'yeh, past, present, and future. So we relate to God through time, through the creation of time, through this name Havaya, through this 4-letter tetragrammaton. So if we're trying to understand the age of the universe and how it all began, to see from the very first point, so what are we trying to see? What are we trying to appreciate? God is above time, right? And to connect in the service of God is also above time. So a photon in a vacuum doesn't experience any time at all. From the first point of creation till now, 0 time. It says that tzaddik that serves Hashem also is serving Hashem at light speed. And how are they serving Hashem at light speed? With their eyes. Again, with light. The light shining forth from their eyes. So just to internalize it. So we have a black hole experience. It's like a Purim experience, where we don't know. Like some scientists, some physicists are saying maybe there's a flip between time and space inside a black hole. So we don't know which is which. Maybe neither. Maybe, but there's this interplay between these two, and it's not exactly clear what's going on inside. There's no clear answer. So that's Purim. The lesson of Purim, and then we have a happy ending. But if I'm searching for life, if I'm searching for other civilizations, if I'm searching even for instruction about how to better this civilization for humankind on this planet, based on observation of others and other planets and so forth and so on. So that's a red mentality. But the blue mentality, a light mentality, is a time mentality. And a tzaddik spends every day maximally in the service of God, to fill up time as much as possible. So that's like, we talk about space having a gravitas, it being you can bend space, right? According to Einstein, right? Gravitational force, and you have with science fiction warping space and folding space and all of that. And even, it's based on physics, so it comes from somewhere. But in time, it's not as popular. You don't hear it as much, but you can also fold time, and you fold more into time. It said that Abraham, every day that he lived was a full day. He was able to accomplish much more. So you're folding more into the day. So we have to understand what that means and how that relates to our experience of the passage of time. But it seems to be variable based on again, with this goal of spending our days like the righteous. The righteous spend their days, of filling it maximally. So what that means in terms of in our observation of how long the tzaddik, how long is their day. So that's something to think about, a deep thought, and maybe this can resolve some of these differences between what the science says in terms of the passage of time, and what the Jewish people say in terms of the Jewish calendar for the age of the universe, 5780, not 13.8. 10 years ago it was 13.7. I said the joke in another video, but it's okay. I say it again. So over 10 years ago, there was a class by Rabbi Ginsburg on the number 137. So 137, for those who know, is the inverse the fine structure constant, or sometimes called the coupling constant. So it's a very fundamental, important number in physics, 1 over 137. And 137 equals, among many other things, but it equals in Hebrew the word Kabbalah. So the class was mentioned that, parenthetically, that physicists now say that the world is 13.7 billion years. But since that wasn't the basis of the class, was talking about was many other wonderful insights into Torah, and this was like a parenthetical comment in one of the classes. It was a whole series of classes. So when it came time to edit the book, it was already after the point when scientists said that maybe the universe is now closer to 13.8 billion. So I made the joke that in the span of 10 years or so, 100 million years passed. So indeed, according to science, it took 10 years for 100 million years to pass. So, but maybe there's something to think about that, and to realize that as we get closer to the coming of Mashiach, the redemption, that God has redeemed the Jewish people in the entire world, that things are moving much faster, and to understand what modern times means, what modernity, what it means that things are moving faster. So that's the main thing, though. Again, back to appreciation of a tzaddik, is that every day should be productive, filled with productivity, and maximally that we should expend our effort in the service of God. So these are, again, it's good meditation, and again, to think about this shift between red to blue and all the implications therein. Thank you.